The Onana saga is finally over and United are moving on without him. Let us be honest with each other for a moment. When Manchester United paid Inter Milan around £47 million to bring Andre Onana to Old Trafford in the summer of 2023, most Red Devils fans were excited. Here was a goalkeeper who had just put in a brave and composed performance in the Champions League final against Manchester City. He played the ball out from the back with confidence. He commanded his box. He looked like the modern goalkeeper that United had been crying out for under Erik ten Hag. Fast forward to May 2026, and the story has taken a very different turn. Onana is not at Old Trafford. He has been sitting in Turkey on loan at Trabzonspor for the whole 2025-26 season. And now the news has dropped loud and clear from ESPN that Manchester United are not planning to keep him in their squad next season. They want to sell him. They are done. So how did we get here? And what happens next for both Onana and for United? Grab a cup of tea, Red Devils fans, because we are going to walk through the whole story from start to finish. How it all started. The big money signing that did not go to plan. When Erik ten Hag brought Onana to United, the logic made a lot of sense. Onana had worked with ten Hag at Ajax. The manager trusted him. He knew how to play with his feet, which fitted perfectly into ten Hag's style of building from the back. United fans had watched David De Gea for years, and while De Gea was brilliant at shot stopping, he was never comfortable with the ball at his feet. Onana was supposed to fix that problem, and in the beginning, there were promising signs. Onana showed his quality in certain moments. He pulled off good saves. His distribution was sharp, but then the errors started to come. Not small errors either. Big, match-changing mistakes, the kind that end up on highlight reels for all the wrong reasons. Goals that should never have gone in. Moments where United fans covered their eyes and wondered what was happening. And the thing about goalkeeping errors is that they stick in the memory like nothing else. A striker can miss 5 chances and score the 6th, and people celebrate. A goalkeeper can make 20 brilliant saves, and then one mistake costs the team 3 points. And that is what everyone talks about. That was the reality of Onana's time at United. Talent was clearly there. The potential was clearly there, but the consistency was not. The 2025-26 season starts and things get worse before they change. Coming into the 2025-26 season, Ruben Amorim had taken charge of Manchester United. The new manager was trying to rebuild a squad that was going through a very difficult period. And in the early weeks of that season, something interesting happened. Altay Bayindir, who had been the backup goalkeeper, was actually preferred over Onana in some matches. Think about that for a second. Onana had been the first choice goalkeeper for 2 full seasons. He had a contract running until 2028. He was being paid serious money, and the manager was picking the backup ahead of him. That tells you everything you need to know about how things had gone wrong. Then United went out and signed Senna Lamens from Royal Antwerp in the closing stages of the 2025 summer transfer window. Lamens was a young Belgian goalkeeper who had been impressive in Belgium and caught the eye of United's recruitment team. His arrival made Onana's position at the club very clear. The writing was on the wall. What did Onana do? He accepted a season-long loan move to Trabzonspor in Turkey. Before he left, he admitted that he was happy to be starting a new adventure and a new project. He also spoke about how sad he was over Erik ten Hag's sacking, saying he felt bad about it and acknowledged that United had simply not won enough games. That honesty was something fans appreciated, even if the results had been disappointing. He also gave a somewhat revealing comment before the season where he told fans to be prepared for him to take a lot of risks. At that point, many fans probably thought that was already happening too much. What happened in Turkey? A season of solid work. Here is something that does not always get reported fairly. Onana has actually done well at Trabzonspor. He has made over 30 appearances for the Turkish club this season. He has kept 6 clean sheets. In one cup match, he saved 3 penalties in a shootout win over Samsunspor. That is the kind of performance that gets people talking. Trabzonspor's president Ertuğrul Doğan was so impressed that he came out publicly and said he wants to sign Onana on a permanent basis. He said his club likes Onana and that if the conditions are right, they want him to stay. He also acknowledged that the final decision is up to Onana himself. So, from a personal and professional standpoint, the loan move worked. Onana got regular football. He showed he can still perform at a high level. His confidence clearly came back, and he came through the season without the kind of high-profile mistakes that had become his trademark at Old Trafford. Here is the big question for Red Devils fans. If Onana performed that well in Turkey, does he deserve another chance at United? That is a fair question. And the honest answer, based on everything United have communicated, is no. Not because of his form in Turkey, but because United have already moved on. Seni Lamens, the man who changed everything. While Onana was in Turkey, Seni Lamens was quietly becoming one of the best stories of United's season. The Belgian goalkeeper settled in quickly, kept his errors to a minimum, and gave United the reliable presence between the posts that they had been missing for so long. By the time the season was coming to an end, Lamens had clearly established himself as the number 1. He was not just warming the bench and being called adequate. He was genuinely good. United fans started to trust him in a way they had stopped trusting Onana, and that trust, once lost, is very hard to get back at a club like Manchester United. Lamens is expected to be United's first-choice goalkeeper for the 2026-27 season. The club believe in him. Ruben Amorim believes in him. The plan is set. Now here is another question worth thinking about. Should United even entertain the idea of keeping Onana as a backup? On paper, having 2 quality goalkeepers sounds fine, but goalkeepers need game time to stay sharp. Onana, who still has 2 years left on his contract, would be on a very high salary as a backup, and his wages are reportedly set to rise following United's qualification for next season's Champions League. That makes him incredibly expensive to keep on the bench doing nothing. It simply does not make financial sense. And Ineos, who run the football operations at United, are very focused on making the finances work properly. Keeping Onana around would be a waste of money that could be spent on improving other areas of the squad. The dream that will not come true. Onana wants to return. Now here is the part of this story that is genuinely a little sad if you think about it from Onana's point of view. He has said publicly that he wants to return to Manchester United. He has described United as his dream club. He has spoken about how his performances in Turkey have made him stronger and better. He believes he can come back and compete. He wants to fight for the number 1 shirt. You have to respect that attitude. Nobody wants a player who gives up and accepts defeat. The mentality Onana is showing is the right mentality. And if you had told him a few months ago that he would save 3 penalties in a cup shootout and keep things tight for a good Turkish side, he would have used that as evidence that he is ready to return. But the reality of football is brutal. It does not matter how much you want something if the club has already decided they are moving in a different direction. And United have made their position very clear. ESPN reported that the club is working on selling him and is open to signing a new goalkeeper this summer. That is about as clear a message as you can send without actually putting someone on a transfer list and posting it on the official website. Onana's dream of returning to United and competing with Lamens is not going to happen, at least not at this club. The chapter is closed. The problem United now has, selling Onana is not easy. Here is where things get complicated though. United want to sell Onana. But wanting to sell someone and actually selling them are 2 very different things in football. The main issue is his wages. Onana is not on a small salary. He was signed for nearly £50 million and paid wages that reflect that kind of investment. And with United qualifying for the Champions League again, squad wages are expected to go up. Onana's wages will increase too as part of that deal, so any club coming in to sign Onana will need to match those wages, or Onana will need to accept a pay cut. And that is never a simple conversation. Trabzonspor would love to keep him on a permanent basis. Their president has made that clear. But Trabzonspor's vice president also came out and admitted that United's asking price for Onana is in the range of 45 to 50 million euros. He was very honest about it, basically saying that those kind of figures are simply beyond what Trabzonspor can realistically spend. So a permanent move to Turkey looks very unlikely. So what other options are there? This is where things get very interesting. Could Onana return to Inter Milan? Reports from January 2026 suggested that Onana's representatives had already traveled to Milan to hold talks with interested clubs. Inter Milan was mentioned specifically as a possible destination. This actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Onana came from Inter Milan. He knows the club, he knows the city, he has history there, and apparently he still owns the apartment he lived in during his first spell at Inter. That is not the kind of detail that means nothing. You do not keep your apartment unless you are at least a little open to the idea of going back. Inter Milan are also in the market for a goalkeeper. Their current number one, Jan Sommer, is getting older, and the club are thinking about the future. Onana, at 30 years old, would be a reasonable signing for a club of Inter's caliber. He is experienced. He has Champions League experience, and he already knows how to play in Italy. There is also competition for his signature. Tottenham's Guglielmo Vicario has been linked with a move to Inter as well, so Onana would not automatically walk back into that club either. But of all the options currently available, a return to Inter Milan seems like the most realistic and the most logical destination for Onana if he leaves United this summer. What does this mean for Manchester United going forward? The Onana situation is not just about one player. It is a symbol of a bigger story at Manchester United. It is the story of Ineos coming in and trying to fix years of transfer mistakes. Players signed for big money who did not deliver. Wages given out without proper thought. Contracts that now make it hard to move players on. Onana costs £47 million. He is being sold at what will almost certainly be a significant loss. That hurts. And it is not a one-off situation at United. There are other players in the squad who were signed for big fees and have not worked out as hoped. But the positive way to look at it is this. United went out and found Senna Lamens for what was by modern transfer standards a very reasonable fee. A young Belgian goalkeeper who has come in and actually done the job. That is the kind of smart transfer business that United need more of. Less of the big splashes, more of the intelligent, well-researched signings. If Lamens continues the way he has started and United can move Onana on for even 20 or 25 million euros, then they will have freed up wages, recouped some money, and still have a very capable goalkeeper. That is not the worst outcome in the world, even if the original Onana deal clearly did not go as planned. United are also apparently open to signing another goalkeeper this summer. That could mean bringing in a capable backup to push Lamens and give proper competition for the spot. Competition is healthy. It keeps everyone sharp. And with United back in the Champions League, they will need proper depth in every position. A word on Onana the person. Before we wrap up, it is worth saying something that sometimes gets lost in all the transfer talk. Andre Onana is a human being who came to one of the biggest clubs in the world with genuine ambition and desire to succeed. He did not come to Manchester United to make mistakes. He did not come to embarrass himself or let anyone down. Football is a sport where things do not always go the way you hope. Keepers go through rough patches, confidence drops, errors creep in. And at a club like Manchester United, where every game is magnified and every mistake is replayed 1,000 times, those rough patches can become very public and very painful. Onana handled himself with a decent amount of dignity through most of the tough times. He spoke honestly when he could have made excuses. He went to Turkey and worked hard instead of sulking. He performed well enough there to have a club president publicly declare that he wants to sign him permanently. That is not the story of a player who gave up. That is the story of a player who had a bad time at a huge club and tried to rebuild. Whatever happens next in his career, that resilience should be acknowledged. The final verdict: what should Red Devils fans think about all this? So where does this leave the United faithful? Let us break it down simply. The Onana era at Old Trafford is over. It did not work out the way anyone hoped. He made too many costly errors over 2 seasons, and the club eventually brought in a replacement. That replacement, Lammens, has done the job well and is now the future of the goalkeeping position at United. Onana wants to come back, but United do not want him back. He has performed well on loan, but the decision has already been made. The club is focused on selling him this summer, though that may not be as straightforward as they would like because of his wages and his asking price. The most likely destination for Onana at this point appears to be either a return to Inter Milan or a permanent move to Trabzonspor, though the finances for the latter make that very difficult. There could also be other clubs that come forward once his availability becomes more widely known. For United fans, the lesson here is one that comes up again and again at this club. Big fees do not guarantee big performances. Goalkeeping is a position that is deeply tied to confidence and consistency, and when both drop at the same time at a club under huge scrutiny, it is very hard to recover. United needed to move on from Onana once Lammens proved he was ready, and they are doing that. Is there a part of you that feels a little sorry for Onana? There probably should be. He wanted this to work. He wanted Old Trafford to be his home. It just was not meant to be. But football moves fast. United need to keep moving forward. Next season brings the Champions League back to Old Trafford, and Ruben Amorim will need every part of his squad to be focused and ready. There is no room for sentiment when the goals and the titles are what matter. Onana gave what he could. United are moving on. And somewhere, probably over a coffee in Milan, looking at apartments, Onana is already planning his next chapter. Where do you stand on all this? Before you go, we want to hear from you. Do you think United made the right call in moving on from Onana, or do you think he deserved one more chance after his performances in Turkey? Could he have become a real competition for Lammens if given the opportunity? And what about the transfer situation? Do you think United will be able to sell him for a decent fee this summer, or will his wages make things complicated? Who do you think his next club will be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The Red Devils Transfer Hub is your space to talk United football. Every opinion matters here, and the conversation is always better when more voices are in it. This is not just a transfer update. This is the end of a chapter at Manchester United, and how United handle the business end of it this summer will tell us a lot about how serious Ineos are about running this club the right way going forward. Stay close to Red Devils Transfer Hub for all the latest updates as this story develops through the summer window. This one is far from fully settled yet.